Warning: the following video contains material that may be harmful or disturbing to some audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. He knew 3 things. They were all dead, that lady was going to call back, and he really was a psycho now. Remember that weird kid from study hall that everybody tried to avoid? Every school had one. That was Sam. People would say, "He's not right. There's something really off about that guy." Well, it wasn't too long after high school that those prophetic words would be proven true. The 2009 murders committed by a social outcast looking for acceptance online took place in Farmville, Virginia. The meetup started innocently enough. In 2008, 3 teens, all living in different parts of the United States, were brought together by their shared love of music. Known as Horrorcore, the hardcore genre features dark themes like cannibalism, homicide, and torture. The following year, in September 2009, Emma Niederbrock, age 16, and Melanie Wells, 18, were die-hard fans of macabre music. Their favorite anthems were the dark rap songs produced by Serial Killin' Records. Fronted by performers Ragdoll, she gives no formal birth name, she is known only as Raz, and her boyfriend Andre Shrim, known as Satanic. It was Raz who introduced the 2 friends online some months earlier, noting how similar they were in their videos and MySpace posts they shared with the band. Raz and Syk fostered a close relationship with their fans, from online message boards to music festivals. Fans would travel from all over to see their concerts and hang out with the rappers afterwards. So, the bandmates were among the first to become concerned when Emma and Mel, who had by this point traveled to many music events together, failed to return to their respective homes following the Strictly for the Wicked festival in Southgate, Michigan. Joining the pair was Richard Samuel McCroskey III, age 20, from California. Sam was a budding horrorcore rapper known as Syko Sam. He and Emma had begun an online relationship after meeting in a chat room. The Michigan concert was to be their first in-person meetup after dating online for close to a year. Emma's parents, recently divorced but living in the same neighborhood, came together for their daughter's sake to coordinate the road trip getaway with her friends. But the plan was flawed in so many ways. Emma's well-meaning parents, criminology professor Dr. Deborah Kelly and Pastor Mark Niederbrock, would chaperone the trip. Best friend Melanie traveled from her home in West Virginia to Deborah's residence, followed soon after by Syko Sam, Emma's eagerly anticipated self-titled boyfriend. Now let me clarify here that from everything I've read, the Niederbrocks were involved parents, fully aware of the types of themes the horrorcore genre boasted, and they didn't like it. They weighed the pros and cons of this cross-country trip very carefully, but Emma was a smart girl with a very rebellious streak, so they monitored her online activity and musical tastes, but let her express her own individuality. So, getting back to the road trip. The itinerary included a multi-state car ride from Virginia to Michigan, followed by Deborah and Emma hosting Sam at their home for the week following the festival. However, immediately upon spying Sam for the first time in person, Emma and Melanie were completely put off. Sam was not at all like his online persona. Instead of the dark, edgy rapper portrayed in his song My Dark Side, Sam was an awkward, pasty 20-year-old who had clearly not been out of his parents' basement in a very long time. The ride to Michigan was uncomfortable, to say the least, with Emma rebuffing Sam's hand-holding and other advances. Later, following the concert, the performers and fans hung out together at the hotel where they were all booked, and it was clear that Rebel Emma with the fuchsia hair was a popular standout. Generally, Syk and Raz's fans were society's outcasts, with their multitude of tattoos, piercings, and goth attire. But in this setting, they made up their own little Addams family. Everybody was a misfit, but somehow here, they all fit in. Except for Sam. Sam was, by all accounts, unimpressive. A brown paper bag among colorful lunchboxes, he was quiet and, quite honestly, kind of greasy. And he only had eyes for Emma, He made no attempts to fit in with her new festival friends. For her part, Emma was not attracted to Sam in any way and went out of her way to avoid him. Following the concert weekend, the group, consisting of Emma, her parents, Melanie, and Sam, drove the 640 miles from Southgate back to Farmville. Dad Mark returned to his nearby house, and the women retired to their respective rooms, with loner Sam left to his own devices after everyone else had gone to bed. Fueled by drugs and alcohol, he was growing increasingly unhappy with how this long-awaited meetup was going, especially after seeing several text messages on Emma's cell. He had believed their relationship to be exclusive, and the knowledge that he was mistaken aided him throughout the night. By morning, Melanie's family was trying to reach her, but had gotten no replies to their phone calls or text messages. This went on for several days, from September 15th through the 17th. One call was answered, however, by Sam, who offered that Emma, Mel, and Deborah were out shopping. But hours went by and they never heard back from their daughter. Calls to Raz and Sick resulted in a bunch of message board posts inquiring about the group's whereabouts, but no one had heard from Emma and company since the festival had wrapped days earlier. Finally frantic, Melanie's mother Kathleen reached out to Emma's father. He offered to drive over to the house for a welfare check, but the devoted dad and pastor never called her back. Kathleen continued to call and message everyone she could think of. Eventually, she reached Sam again by phone. Kathleen insisted something was horribly wrong and prodded him to call the police. He agreed, but instead of officers being dispatched to the Niederbrock home, they pulled Sam over in a routine traffic stop. They issued him a ticket for driving without a license. He was driving Pastor Niederbrock's car. On September 18th in the afternoon, Virginia State Police breached the door of the Farmville house. They could never have anticipated the abomination they confronted. They found 4 dead bodies, 3 females downstairs and a male upstairs. All had been bludgeoned to death with a wood-splitting maul, a tool boasting a ball-peen hammer on one end and an axe on the other. The victims, as we have come to now know, were Emma and Mark Niederbrock, Deborah Kelly, and Melanie Wells. Melanie's mother Kathleen was devastated by the loss of her daughter, but also suffered from intense, ravaging guilt for having dispatched Emma's father to his gruesome death. All who knew the victims were traumatized and grief-stricken by the loss. But what of Syko Sam, you ask? On September 19th, police located him at the Richmond airport, covered in blood and human remains. He had committed the murders days before and had not showered. An alert security guard had become suspicious of him when he saw him sleeping in the terminal overnight and contacted authorities. Once they had Sam in custody, investigators learned that he had become enraged after playing over recent events in his mind. He consumed alcohol, marijuana, and pills, the resentment and disappointment festering until he did the unthinkable. As September 14th crawled into the next morning, Syko Sam took a sledgehammer and maul and bludgeoned the women one by one. When Pastor Niederbrock showed up to check on them, he was ambushed and struck down as well. When first questioned, Sam McCroskey remained silent and uncooperative, but in short order he told police, quote, "Jesus told me to do it." To avoid the death penalty, Richard Sam McCroskey pled guilty to 2 counts each of capital murder and first-degree murder. He was sentenced to life in prison and is serving his time at Wallens Ridge State Prison in Virginia. Well, guys, that's it for me today. I hope you enjoyed this new twisted story. And if you're not already a subscriber, I hope you'll consider joining us here at Scary Clarey. I have lots of suspenseful new videos scheduled all the way through Halloween. Until then, have a great day, and I'll catch you next time. Scary Clarey out.